Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Last evening, we started a discussion on this topic, the relevance of the Bhagavad Gita in our daily life. So last night we discussed what is our daily life. One thing that stands out for human beings is that a human being is constantly doing something. Not just doing something, but performing karma, performing actions, performing deliberate actions. Because we find we have number of desires. And therefore, the desire requires us, sometimes pressurizes us to fulfill it by performing an appropriate action. So, number one, our mind is characterized by having variety of desires, and those desires manifest themselves in the form of actions. That's our life. You may say that other creatures also are busy doing a lot of things. What's the difference between the activities that a human being performs and activities that other creatures perform? Is that all the creatures they also have desires, but basic desires. In Sanskrit it is said, Ahara, Nidra, Bhaya, Maithunam. Hunger is one of the prime impulse of all living beings. Nidra, to sleep when you are tired. Bhaya, to protect yourself because there is natural love for existence. Maithunam, sense gratification. So these are the natural instincts that all living beings have. Eating when you are hungry, because hunger and thirst are common to all living beings. The desire to live or desire to perpetuate one's existence also is common to all living beings. Desire to procreate also is common to all living beings. And so, all other creatures, they live their life as prompted by these natural instincts. Human being also has these instincts. So we also have hunger and thirst, need to protect ourselves, need for rest or sleep, and need to procreate. These natural instincts we also have. But as human beings, we have something more. We are born with what we call with ambitions. We have ambitions. So, not just desires to fulfill these basic needs, they are there. Over and above This desire is born of natural instinct. Important thing is we have ambition. We want to achieve something. We want to be great. We want to be successful. We want to be something. Some people want to leave their mark in history. Ambition may be different with different people. But essentially, every human being has one or the other ambition to become something, to achieve something, become something greater than what one is right now, achieve something that one does not have right now. So becoming, achieving, accomplishing, being successful, these are unique to human beings. This kind of instincts are not found in any other creatures. This human being is born with desires, with ambitions. So what do these desires reflect? These ambitions, what do they reflect? They reflect a conclusion on our part. When I have desired to achieve something that I don't have, to become greater or different from what I am right now, all these desires represent a certain dissatisfaction with what is. We are born with a basic dissatisfaction with what is, with what I am. Basically, I do not seem to be quite satisfied with what I am. I am always conscious of the fact that I am lacking something, wanting something, and therefore I want to become free from that lack, free from the want. I find myself inadequate, and therefore there is a constant attempt to become free from inadequacy, incompleteness, limitation, dependence, bondage, helplessness. Thus, human mind is characterized by dissatisfaction with one's own self. Every desire is really a manifestation of this inner dissatisfaction with what is. But then, when I look at my dissatisfaction with what is, ultimately it turns out to be dissatisfaction with what I am, which is a great thing. It is a dissatisfaction, this ambition that enables the human being to accomplish great strides in every field. Human being is an accomplished being. But the point is, there is an inner dissatisfaction that drives me to do something, drives me to change myself, drives me to change things around me, to become something bigger than what I am, better than what I am. This inner drive from the dissatisfaction, does that drive get fulfilled? Meaning that, in spite of achieving what I achieve in my life, do I find an inner satisfaction as a result? If you have to take a stock of our life, a balance sheet of our life. One way to determine what progress we have made is in terms of course, my wealth, the fame, the power. There is one way of taking stock of my life, that now my bank balance is this, now my position is this, now my fame is spread this much, which is all right. The second question that we should ask is that as a result of these accomplishments, do I find myself a more satisfied person? Do I find myself more comfortable with myself? Do I find myself more at peace with myself? This is a question that we have to ask. In fact, Vedanta would say that is a real criterion for judging success in our life. Even though the world measures or defines success in terms of the accomplishment, in terms of wealth and fame and power, which is fine. Understand that Vedanta has no problem with that. You may think that Vedanta, Bhagavad Gita, the Swamis are all opposed to desires, opposed to wealth, opposed to material accomplishment. Not at all. At the same time, what is important to take into account is, do I find myself more satisfied with myself than what I was earlier? Many years ago when we came to the United States, our life was very, more modest than what it is now. So we friends would, at a lunchtime talk, many of us wanted to go back to India at some point in time. When should we go back? Said, if we accumulate a bank balance of $25,000, we'll go back. But by the time we accumulated that bank balance, already the desire had risen to $50,000, $100,000, $500,000, $1 million. This is only in terms of money, in terms of power, in terms of fame. At a given point in time, we feel that if I get that position, I'll be fine. If I have that much amount of income or bank balance, I'll be fine. And various other things that we, criteria they set for ourselves. But unfortunately, all of these things are not necessarily able to give us that inner satisfaction. It is true that when my desire is satisfied, I wanted a promotion, I got that promotion. I wanted this raise, I got that raise. I do feel satisfied. When my desire is satisfied, I feel satisfied. For how long? Until the other desire comes. If a desire is the mark of inner dissatisfaction, this is what you have to note. The desire is manifestation of inner dissatisfaction. then even after a given desire is satisfied, when another desire arises, that shows that the dissatisfaction has not gone, that has remained intact. Sometimes a very strange thing is found that more a person gets, more the dissatisfaction seems to grow. More money you get, more a person seems to want. More power you get, more you seems to want. Have you ever seen anybody declaring that I have enough now? That I wanted to achieve this position of power or fame and I am happy now. Very rare. There can be somebody. Like, what is this person? Buffett. So, I have enough. Could be. But there are more exceptions than rules. Meaning that if we really observe people around ourselves and observe our own mind, we will discover that all these external achievements do not seem to have any relationship or any connection with my inner satisfaction. This you have to discover. This is what our proposal is. We are inviting you to take a stock of the life, and the balance sheet, the bottom line, should be in terms of inner satisfaction. If that is the criterion for judging my success in life, then it will be perhaps difficult to find a true success, because these accomplishments that I want, I get what I want. Swami, I'm just working for this degree, I'm just waiting for that. Okay, you got this MBA, you got this, you got that. This promotion, you got that. Want to get married, okay. Children, all right. This kind of a house, all right. So, the natural thing that you want. Nothing wrong in them. You have them, enjoy them, no problem. But after all of that, do we find ourselves happy with ourselves, satisfied with ourselves? Or we find that only one desire is replaced by another desire. One dissatisfaction is replaced by another dissatisfaction. So this is the day-to-day life. What is day-to-day life? One action after the other. What does that reflect? One desire after the other. What does that reflect? An inner dissatisfaction. So the question is, what do we want in our life? I'm sure everyone will say, I want to be a successful person. What is the criterion for success? The world has its own criterion for success. Vedanta suggests, Bhagavad Gita suggests that criterion for success is the inner satisfaction, a comfort with myself, being at peace with myself, being happy with myself. People don't like to hear this. Satisfaction with myself, contentment with myself, when they hear, they don't like it. What is it, Swamiji? If I'm content, then there will be no progress. If I am satisfied, there is no progress. Maybe so. But do we want progress for the sake of progress? Or do we want progress for the sake of happiness? Ultimately, what human being wants is happiness. And happiness is defined by the degree of inner satisfaction. How satisfied I am with myself. More satisfied I am with myself, more comfortable I am with myself, more I love myself, put it this way. More happy I am. In fact, we have a problem with one entity. Who is that, My own self. Who is the problem for me? Myself. Who do I find difficult to love? My own self. We generally do not love ourselves. We are very critical of ourselves. There is one part of my mind that is constantly judging myself and pointing out the various inadequacies in me, various shortcomings in me, various limitations in me, and bashing myself. The self-bashing, self-non-acceptance, self-rejection, self-condemnation is a typical problem of human being. All our unhappiness, sadness, depression, all these emotional problems, all of them arise on account of my being critical of myself, my not accepting myself, my rejecting myself. Even though when we ask somebody, why do you feel and why do you look unhappy? The answer will be my boss, my father, my friend, my mother-in-law, my daughter-in-law, X, Y, Z, somebody or the other will be the cause of my unhappiness, usually. That is what our conviction, that's the reason why we try to change things. Because our conclusion is, my unhappiness comes from this, that. Therefore, I am constantly in the process of removing or changing what I consider the cause of unhappiness. Naturally, unhappiness is the result. Cause is this person, this situation, this happening, this event, they are all causes. And therefore, we constantly try to change them to make them more comfortable, more favorable. But it has never occurred to us that this person becomes a cause of dislike. That I dislike a certain person, I dislike a certain situation, I dislike a certain event, I dislike a certain outcome of my action. All that dislike really has its root in basically my dislike for myself. Therefore, if you understand this, then the teaching of Bhagavad Gita becomes relevant to us. If this is not our understanding, then Bhagavad Gita cannot help us. What Bhagavad Gita suggests is sometimes quite contrary to what the world wants us to do or what the world considers a means of success. Bhagavad Gita may tell you something else. The world says grab more and more. That's what the world will tell me. Use your smartness, use your intelligence, all the advantages that you have, use them to exploit more and more, to grab more and more, expand your power, expand your influence. The whole countries are doing it, individuals also are doing it, and countries also are doing it. This is a conviction. This is what the world teaches us. Bhagavad Gita teaches us quite the contrary. Gita says, don't remain a grabber. Become a giver. Now this will not fit into the orientation that the world gives us. Swami, how can you be happy by giving? So Bhagavad Gita points out, one way to become happy is by becoming happy by acquiring, satisfying your desires and self-satisfaction. Meaning that by gratification of your ego, by gratification of your senses, by self-gratification. That would include the sense pleasures, would include emotional pleasure, that would include intellectual pleasure, that would include ego gratification. All of this can be described as self-gratification. Sometimes gratification of body, sometimes gratification of senses, sometimes gratification of the emotions, of the intellect, of the ego. All these fall in the category of self as we understand. So self-gratification is thought to be the means of happiness. As I said, we do seem to feel happy. Whenever there is gratification at the level of senses, emotions, intellect, ego, I do feel happy momentarily. But it does not have any lasting effect. It is all what we call the rule that applies. Is in the economics they used to say, diminishing return, the law of diminishing return. What it means is that a capacity that a given thing has to make me happy, that capacity slowly goes down. And I require more and more of that for the same quantum of happiness. Formerly, I my own experience, one cup of tea used to make me happy. Then slowly that increased to 2 cups of tea, 3, 4, 5 cups of tea for the same quantum of happiness. This is called the law of diminishing return. First plate of ice cream gives me ecstasy. Second plate of ice cream still makes me happy. Third plate of ice cream, if they push me, then I may eat it, okay. Fourth plate of ice cream, I don't want it. Fifth plate of ice cream brings out all other plates of ice cream. And this is true of everything in the life, everything. Whatever I consider as a source of happiness has this nature of diminishing return, that its capacity to give me happiness seems to diminish, and for the same quantum of happiness, I seem to need more and more things. 50 years ago, we needed 100 things to feel comfortable. Then we needed 200 things. And today I need 500 things. So somebody said, what is called progress? Progress is converting luxuries into necessities. They say luxury comes as a guest, lingers on to become host, and stays on to enslave you. Comfort comes as a guest, lingers on to become host, and stays on to enslave you. See, if we thus look at our life, it is more a process of expanding our enslavement than expanding our freedom. Is it not so? Formerly, whereas for feeling comfortable I needed a few things, today I need air conditioner is a must, internet is a must, even the Swami also. Traveling, first thing I ask my host, not where is my room, what is Wi-Fi, what's the password for Wi-Fi? I could not imagine myself doing this, 10 years ago. But now Swami also travels with a laptop or an iPad, and he also needs Wi-Fi. And he has a cell phone, an iPhone, all kinds of apps in there, including WhatsApp and so all of these have become now the media of communication. Formerly, 50 years ago, there was no cell phone, of course. There was no car phone also those days. You had to drive someplace to a place where you can get a phone. From then on now, where are we? Which is good. Understand that there is no complaint about this. All we have to watch out is, are we becoming more and more dependent or not? That's all we have to watch out, nothing else. Understand that Vedanta has no problem with technology, no problem with development and growth, no problem with comfort, no problem with anything. The only problem is, are we in that process inadvertently becoming more and more dependent? This is the nature of things, that soon before we realize, we get attached to things, Even in the classroom, classes every day, people occupy their seats. Then after a few days, if you are 5 minutes late, if your seat is occupied by somebody, says, please move on this side, it's my seat. So not unusual at all. If person is not aggressive, he may, I feel unhappy, my seat is taken, internally complain and, be dissatisfied. And somebody more aggressive, they say, please move away, this is my seat. We even get attached to a place. Swami, from there I can get the right view. I always want to be always in front of the Swami, I want to see him. And so if somebody a little taller than us comes and we feel uncomfortable, keep moving. If I do not find the pen which I normally use, I become uncomfortable. Six pens are there, but I want that one only. And I spend half an hour searching for that little thing. It is not Gandhiji's pen, understand. Gandhiji was frugal. That is why he wanted that small pencil. He didn't want, says, you can't lose it. You can't be careless. But my looking for that pen shows attachment to that pen because I am not comfortable with other pen. Just observe the life. How our attachments are expanding. Attachment means slavery. What is attachment? Attachment means I cannot do without something. My sense of comfort or happiness or sense of well-being depends upon something else. It may be a person, it may be an object, it may be a place, it may be a situation, it may be an event. But what is meant by attachment is I cannot do without that. If you really observe our life, these attachments are increasing, dependence is increasing. That's why I said, what is progress? Converting luxuries into necessities. What is the necessity? A necessity is that without which I cannot do. A luxury is that which is there, is fine, not there, then also it is fine. That is called luxury. So you go to a 5-star hotel and enjoy those things. Come home and then you are where you are. That's okay, you know. So you enjoy luxury you get in a 5-star hotel, but comfortably come back to your own home and you are all right. Then it's okay. It's called luxury. But what is necessity? I cannot do without something. So slowly and slowly we are expanding the necessities, that is the dependence. Comfort comes as a guest, lingers on to become host, and stays on to enslave us. Enslave means that creating attachment. Attachment means I cannot do without something. Meaning that essentially I am a slave of that thing. It is that thing that decides whether I'll be happy or not. So really speaking, nothing wrong in progress, nothing wrong in comforts, nothing wrong in all these technological advancements, which are all right. The problem is, am I using them or are they using me? That's the thing. Do I drink coffee or does coffee drink me? Oh, Swami, how can coffee drink you? When comes 3 o'clock in the afternoon and when I do not get that cup of coffee, I start feeling uncomfortable. I miss that. I lose my mood. In my case, it would cause headaches and vomiting. Meaning that that cup of coffee became so important, it was blackmailing me. I must have it at a given time, otherwise I would have all kinds of stomach problems and headaches. Now mine was an extreme case. But this is called attachment, dependence, bondage. So when Vedanta talks about bondage, this is a bondage. We are not bound by some ropes and stuff. We are free. We enjoy political freedom, social freedom, economic freedom, which is wonderful. Enjoy it and you should have it. You should have social freedom, economic freedom, political freedom. If you think you should have it, fine. But in itself is not enough. We need that inner freedom. Freedom from compulsion, freedom from inner pressure, which compels me to do things. Right now, I do not seem to have freedom. not to do something. There is something within me that pressurizes me, makes me uncomfortable, and compels me to do things. This story we have told you in the past. Our Swami used to tell us a story of a simply sitting Swami. Simply sitting Swami. Who is the simply sitting Swami? The Swami who simply sits and doesn't do anything. So apparently there was a temple in South India someplace, temple of Lord Shiva. And this Swami would come every morning, sit in front of the Lord, just sit there until evening and go home, go back wherever he came from. And for doing that, the temple was very kind. Every day at noontime, Naivedya is offered to the Lord. And that Naivedya is in form of rice. In South India, that's all you have, rice, that's all. And that rice is then distributed to the priests, and there is a... So different priests get different measures. And this simply sitting Swami also was getting one measure of rice. That was the kindness of the temple, and that was enough for him.